Hey Bible lovers, I'm Tim Nichols, and I'm here to give you a little bit of a different type of Nichols worth today. What we're going to be doing is talking about Mythbusters in the Bible. So we're going to be handling 5 Bible Mythbusters. If this is something that you like and you'd like me to take on more of these, then let me know in the comments and I'll consider doing some more. But let's go ahead and start off with Bible myth number 1. And that is the Bible myth that says God will never give you more than you can bear. And this myth is based off 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. So let's read it real quickly. It says, "No temptation has overtaken you except that which is common to man, but God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will also make a way of escape that you may be able to bear it." And the issue there is that text has nothing to do with God not giving us more than we can handle. I believe that Goliath was a bit more than David could handle. God often puts us in circumstances that are far beyond our own human ability, and we need to rely on Him. And what this text is talking about is temptation. God will never allow the temptation to overtake you without providing a way out if you want that way out. So when you feel yourself being tempted to do something that you know you shouldn't do, look for the way out. God is always willing to provide a way out. But yes, sometimes God will ask you to do things that seem impossible and that are too big for you, and He'll help you along. So now let's go ahead and bust Bible myth number 2. And that is the Bible says, "No one can judge you. You cannot judge. Do not judge, only God can judge me," which should actually terrify you anyway. But let's go ahead and read this in context. In Matthew chapter 7, this is the verse where everybody says, "Judge not." And it says, "Judge not." Wow, we got a smoking gun there, right? But it says, "That you be not judged. For with that judgment you judge, you will also be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, 'Let me remove the speck from your eye,' and look, a plank is in your own eye? Hypocrite, first remove the plank from your own eye, then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." And Jesus' point here isn't that we can never judge. It's that when we're judging, to make sure we are seeing things clearly. As a matter of fact, if we look in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 12, the Apostle Paul says this, "For what have I to do with judging those who are also outside? Do you not judge those who are inside? But those who are outside God judges. Therefore put away from yourselves the evil person." As a matter of fact, in Matthew chapter 18, it says, if you see your brother in a sin, go and confront him. Tell him about his sin, and if he repents, then you're all good. If he doesn't, then you take a couple brothers with you, and if he doesn't still, take him before the church, and if he doesn't listen to the church, then put him out. So this isn't about we can never, ever, ever judge. This is basically saying make sure that when you judge, you've got your own life worked out, you've got your own sin worked out, and that you're not being a hypocrite. That's what that's all about. Bible myth number 3 is that the Bible says God helps those who help themselves. Now, there are texts in the Bible that do indicate that when you put forth effort, God will come alongside that effort and help you. But the fact that God only helps those who help themselves really isn't a biblical concept, because if that's the fact, then Jesus' death would be completely unnecessary. Jesus died on the cross because we could not help ourselves. Actually, this phrase is most likely from ancient Greece. In fact, one of Aesop's fables is called Hercules and the Wagoner. And this is a very interesting story. Basically, there's this man driving a wagon. Everything's going smooth, but then it starts to rain. And then his wheels begin to sink in the mud. And his horses begin to struggle, or mules, depending on the translation and which one you read. They begin to struggle. And instead of getting out and trying to pull his horses and help them, he just begins to complain about his misfortune. And then he cries out to Hercules for help. And then his cries are so loud, Hercules actually responds and says, and I'm paraphrasing, something to the tune of, "Get out and push your own wheels. Try, give some effort." And he says, Hercules only comes to help those who exert effort. And then Aesop gives a closing moral of the story that says, heaven helps them who help themselves. Now, Benjamin Franklin, later on in a Farmer's Almanac, also said God helps them who help themselves. But obviously, he was quoting something earlier. There's even perhaps more early American quotes. So a lot of people attribute this to Benjamin Franklin, but actually it has much earlier roots. In fact, most argue that it even has earlier roots than Aesop's fables, that he was quoting a previous Greek proverb. So there's where that comes from. It's not biblical at all. Although God does work with us, He definitely doesn't require us to help ourselves before He helps us. Now let's go ahead and bust the 4th myth. And that is that money is the root of all evil. And this is a misquote of 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10. We're going to go ahead and read it. It says, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith, and in their greediness have pierced themselves through with many sorrows." So clearly, money is not the evil here. It's when you love money. Jesus said you cannot love both God and mammon. And really, this is about what has your allegiance. Money is a tool, it's a resource. As a matter of fact, money is mentioned in the Bible more than nearly anything else. Money is a key factor in life, and it's something we must have. But Paul's point to Timothy here wasn't that money is evil. It's when you love it that it becomes evil and it can shipwreck your faith. And the fifth Bible myth that I'm going to bust is that the Bible says God works in mysterious ways. While this may be a theological truth, that quote is not found in the Bible. Actually, the closest thing we have to it is a hymn called "God Moves in a Mysterious Way," written by William Cowper. It's actually spelled Cowper, C-O-W-P-E-R, but it's William Cowper. And the first line of the hymn says, "God moves in a mysterious way, his wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps in the sea and rides upon the storm." So while this quote is not directly from the Bible, it can certainly be considered biblical. I'll give you a couple of verses as examples. In Isaiah 55, verses 8 through 9, it says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." Romans 11:33 says, "Oh, the depths of the riches, both of the wisdom and knowledge of God, how unsearchable are his judgments, and his ways past finding out." In other words, the Bible is clear. God works in ways that transcend human logic and human thought. The quote, "God works in mysterious ways," is not in the Bible. So there are 5 Bible myths busted. Let me know if you want more Bible Mythbusters. God bless you. Keep calm. Jesus on. This is your Nicholsworth.